In a quiet village surrounded by dusty hills, there lived a man named Zaid. His house was small, his clothes were simple, and his pockets were almost always empty. But inside his heart, there was something very rich, a deep faith in God. Every morning before the sun rose, Zaid stood in his little yard, raised his hands and whispered, "Thank you, God, for another day. I don't have much, but I have you, and that is enough." Zaid worked as a stonecutter. Each day he walked to the hills and broke rocks under the hot sun. His hands were full of cuts and his back ached, yet he never complained. In the evening, he returned home with a tired smile for his wife, Hannah, and their young son, Sami. Sometimes he earned so little that they had only bread and tea for dinner. Still, he would say gently, "God will open a way for us. We just have to keep working and keep believing." Some people in the village laughed at him. "Zaid, your faith won't fill your stomach," one man said. "You always talk about God, but look at your life. You are still poor." Another added, "If God really cared about you, wouldn't you be rich by now?" Their words were sharp, but Zaid did not let bitterness grow in his heart. He simply answered, "God sees what we cannot see. My job is to trust him and do what is right." One night after a very hard day, Zaid sat alone in his small room. Hannah and Sami were sleeping on thin mats. The oil lamp flickered, and the room felt even smaller than usual. For the first time in a long while, Zaid felt truly weak. His body was tired and his heart felt heavy. He knelt on the rough floor and prayed from the deepest part of his soul. "God," he whispered, "you know everything. You know I am not perfect, but I have tried to be honest and kind. I don't ask to be rich. I only ask for enough to care for my family. Please show me a way. I cannot see what to do next." Tears rolled down his face as he spoke. Slowly, his breathing calmed, and he fell asleep on the floor. In his sleep, he saw a dream. In the dream, he walked across a dry field under a sky full of stars. Ahead of him, a soft light appeared. From the light, a calm voice spoke. "Zaid," the voice said, "your faith has been seen. Tomorrow, before you go to the hills, take bread and water with you. Give them to the first person you see who needs them. Do not be afraid. Your life will change, though not in the way people expect. Trust me." Zaid woke up with his heart beating fast. Dawn had not yet come, but he felt a quiet peace inside. When morning arrived, he told Hannah about the dream. She listened carefully and said softly, "If this is from God, we should obey. We only have a little bread left, but share it. God will not forget us." Zaid took a piece of bread, wrapped it in cloth, and filled a small bottle with water. Then he walked toward the hills as usual. On the way, he saw an old woman sitting by the road. Her clothes were dusty and her face pale. She was leaning against a rock, her eyes half closed. He went to her at once. "Mother, are you all right?" he asked. She shook her head slowly. "I have been walking since morning," she said weakly. "I am thirsty and hungry. I don't know if I can reach the next village." Zaid remembered his dream. Without hesitation, he sat beside her, opened his bag, and took out the bread and water. "Please eat," he said gently. "This is for you." The woman looked at him with surprise. "But what about you, son?" she asked. "Don't worry about me," Zaid replied. "God will take care of us." She ate the bread and drank the water. Color returned to her cheeks. She raised her hands and prayed for him, asking God to bless Zaid and his family. As Zaid continued on his way, he felt lighter, as if some unseen weight had been lifted from his heart. At the hills, he began his work. He lifted his hammer and struck the rocks as he did every day. After some time, he noticed a large stone that looked different from the others. A thin white line ran through it, shining slightly in the sunlight. Curious, Zaid moved closer. Carefully, he broke the stone around the line. Piece by piece, the rock fell away. Inside was a beautiful cluster of white crystal, clear and bright like frozen light. Zaid held it in his hands, amazed. He had never found anything like it before. He took the crystal to the town market. At first, people thought it was just another rock, but a merchant who sold jewelry and rare stones saw it, and his eyes widened. "Where did you find this?" the merchant asked. "In the hills," Zaid answered. The merchant examined it closely, then said, "This is rare and valuable. I will pay you enough to feed your family for many months, and if you ever find more, bring them to me." Zaid could hardly believe it. With the money he received, he bought food, clothes, and medicine. He repaired the roof of their house and bought a proper bed for Hana and Sami. But he did not forget the old woman by the road or the other poor families in his village. Quietly, without telling anyone, he began to help them too, leaving food at their doors, paying for school books, and visiting the sick. Step by step, Zaid's life changed. The merchant introduced him to other buyers, and soon Zaid was not only cutting ordinary stones, but also looking for crystals and special rocks. His income grew, but his heart stayed humble. Every time he earned money, he set aside a part of it to give to those in need. People started to notice the change. One of the men who had laughed at him before came and said, "Zaid, how did this happen? Yesterday you were poor, and today you are comfortable. What did you do?" Zaid smiled and answered, "I did what I always did. I worked, I prayed, and I trusted God. The day my life began to change was the day I chose to share my last piece of bread and water, not because I had extra, but because I believed God would still provide." Years passed. Zaid's house was no longer broken and cold. It was now a place of warmth and welcome. Travelers knew they could knock on his door and find kindness there. Children knew he would listen to their dreams. Neighbors knew he would stand by them in times of trouble. Yet every morning before the sun rose, Zaid still stood in his little yard and raised his hands to the sky. "Thank you, God," he would say. "Everything I have is from you. Help me to use it well." People in the village began to understand something important. Faith in God did not magically drop gold from the sky. It did something deeper. It changed Zaid's heart. It made him patient when life was hard, generous when he had little, and brave enough to obey a quiet voice in a dream. And because his heart changed, his choices changed. And because his choices changed, his whole life slowly turned in a new direction. That is how Zaid's story became a living message to everyone around him. When you truly trust God, you do not only wait for your situation to change, you let Him change you first. And when your heart is full of faith, kindness, and courage, your life can become brighter than you ever imagined. One act of trust, one small step of obedience at a time.